was really surprised to find out how many tragedies you've really had in your life.
At age 20, I was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour. I was found dead at the scene. My heart stopped for 6 minutes. Came out of a coma 6 days later to be told I would never walk again. It was 2007. I started a coaching business and my business was taking off, and then 2008 happened. And so I lost over half of my income. It was 8 years after that I was diagnosed with this rare aggressive form of cancer. My heart was failing, my lungs were failing, my kidneys were failing. They gave me a 30% chance of survival. When you find yourself upset, something doesn't go your way, set your timer for 5 minutes and give yourself 5 minutes to bitch, moan, cry, complain, vent. And when the timer goes off after 5 minutes, they say everything happens for a reason, but I think that we have to choose the reason. If you can find the benefit in the tragedy, then everything changes. But how am I gonna get someone to change a lifetime limiting belief that says, I'm not a morning person?
Hey, App Fam. Okay, be honest. How many times have you hit snooze this week? Yeah, same for me. But what if I told you that your entire life could start changing before 8 a.m.? Today's guest says it can, and he's got the receipts to prove it. Hal Elrod is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and the author of The Miracle Morning, a book that has sold millions of copies and sparked a global movement. His 6-step morning routine, known as Lifesavers, has helped people around the world wake up with more energy, clarity, and purpose. But Hal's story goes way deeper than that. He was pronounced dead for 6 minutes after a car crash, told that he would never walk again. And he did. He lost everything in 2008 recession and he rebuilt. Then in his 30s, he was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer and he beat it. Throughout it all, Hal has developed a powerful mindset and framework that helped him not only survive, but thrive. In this conversation, we'll unpack how he built the Miracle Morning, how entrepreneurs can design mornings that supercharge their productivity, and how anyone, no matter where they're starting, can build unstoppable habits and a resilient mindset. Hal, welcome to Young and Profiting Podcast.
Hal, it is so nice to be here.
I'm really excited for this conversation. I feel like we've gotten to know each other a bit over the last few months, and now we get to do this in person. We're neighbors in Austin, so that's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I was doing some research about your journey, and I was really surprised to find out how many tragedies you've really had in your life. Car accident, bankruptcy, cancer. When you think of rock bottom, what is the memory that really stands out to you?
I think that rock bottoms are relative to who you are at any given moment, right? One adversity for two different people it might be a rock bottom, one it might be I can handle this, I've been there before. So for me, my first rock bottom was at age 20. I was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour. I broke 11 bones. I was found dead at the scene. My heart stopped for 6 minutes. Came out of a coma 6 days later to be told I would never walk again, in a wheelchair the rest of my life, and I had permanent brain damage. So that was for sure it doesn't get any lower than that for me. And so that was the first one. But here's how I look at it. When I say rock bottoms are relative, they're relative to the individual, meaning when I share my story sometimes, people go, oh my gosh, that I've never been through anything quite like that. And I said, well, whatever we've been through, if you're a child and your parent is abusive or you're bullied or even you're outcast in your friend group, that can be a rock bottom. It's those moments that test you, that challenge you, and that challenge your faith in yourself, your faith in God, right? And so I think that from those, of course, either those can destroy you and create lasting trauma, or they become a launching pad for you to learn and grow and become a better version of yourself.
Yeah. And for you, it's certainly the latter, right? You became a better version of yourself. So you got hit by a car, 20 years old, pronounced dead, told you were never going to walk again. How did you then overcome that? Because here you are walking into the studio and had a really thriving life since then.
So a year and a half before my car accident, I started selling Cutco cutlery.
Okay.
In fact, it's interesting. We have so much in common. At 19 years old, you started on Hot 97.
Yeah.
I started on Q97.
Oh, wow.
And I DJ'd midnight to 6 a.m. because I was the new person, right? It was the
love
grunge
that.
shift. Yeah. And I got hired to sell Cutco. And the opportunity to make income with Cutco was significantly greater at the time than on the radio.
Yeah, radio had no money.
Yeah, I'm making $10 an hour. And so with Cutco, I started doing really, really well. And on my second day of training, my mentor that hired me, Jesse, he taught the training class. There was about 25 of us, something called the 5-minute rule. And it simply said, when things go wrong, and he was using it for sales, you're going to face a lot of rejection and adversity, and you're going to set goals and miss them, and you're going to, and he said, you need a strategy to quickly move through the challenges that you face so that you don't get emotionally bogged down, but you can just dust yourself off and keep going. And so he said the 5-minute rule is when you find yourself upset, something doesn't go your way, set your timer for 5 minutes and give yourself 5 minutes to bitch, moan, cry, complain, vent, fully express and feel the emotions. Don't suppress them. Don't say, no, I don't have time for this. Feel them fully. And when the timer goes off after 5 minutes, he taught us to say 3 really powerful words. It's can't change it. It's a simple acknowledgement. I can't change what happened 5 minutes ago, so now I got a choice. I can continue to dwell on it, wish it didn't happen, be upset about it, feel sorry for myself, or I can accept my reality exactly as it is. Can't change it. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
So a year and a half of practicing that 5-minute rule, I came out of the coma, told I'd never walk again, and it took more than 5 minutes, but within a few days, I realized, well, I can't change this. So I can either be depressed and upset and sad and feel sorry for myself, or I can accept my new reality exactly as it is. And I told my mom and dad, if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, you guys, I live by the 5-minute rule. I can't change it. I will be the happiest, most grateful person that you've ever seen in a wheelchair. But I'm not accepting that as my fate. I'm going to visualize, I'm going to pray, I'm going to affirm, I'm going to put all my energy into walking again while I'm also at peace with the worst case scenario. And 3 weeks later, the doctors came in and they looked at the x-rays and they said, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing so fast that I know we told you 3 weeks ago you'd never walk again. You can take your first step in therapy today. And the rest was, it called a miracle. And I wasn't thinking it could happen that fast, but the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Amazing. So was this the starting point of you figuring out your miracle mornings?
Not my miracle mornings, but it was my starting point of figuring out my new career.
Okay.
My dad came in after meeting with the doctors and said, the doctors believe you're in denial, Hal, or you're delusional because you're so happy. And this was before I knew I would ever walk again. I was still, 2 weeks after the crash, but I had already lived that 5-minute rule and accepted it. And I said, Dad, they say everything happens for a reason, but I think that we have to choose the reasons. I don't think that they're predetermined and we're supposed to figure them out or ask to what are they. I'm deciding. I always wanted to be a motivational speaker ever since I started selling Cutco, and I would get to give speeches at the conferences. I said, but I don't know how to do that. I never had anything to talk about. I said, I believe that's why this happened to me. I'm supposed to overcome this, learn from it, and then teach other people. And so that's where I thought about writing a book. And my first book, which was called Taking Life Head On, that came out 6 years later, and thought about launching my speaking career. And that started in high schools and then colleges, and then eventually, big stages with companies. But it did in that hospital bed start with how can I use this adversity to help other people?
Yeah. What a positive way to kind of reframe everything going on, use it as a way to help other people overcome what they're dealing with. So then fast forward to your mid to late 30s, you were diagnosed with cancer and your whole body was basically failing.
Yeah.
And I think you had bankruptcy around that time as well, or at some point in your career. So talk to us about those two adversities and how you dealt with them.
Yeah. So the first one in chronological order was it was 2007, 2008 when the U.S. economy crashed. I had hit Hall of Fame with Cutco, so I wanted to move on and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Cutco was selling somebody else's product.
How long were you at Cutco?
6 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, I had this, I was an entrepreneur when I was 15. I started my first DJ business. I always wanted my own business. And I loved Cutco and what it provided, but I'm like, I want to create something from thin air, you know? And so I left Cutco and I started a coaching business. That was the first thing I did. I thought, what am I qualified to do? Well, I was really successful with Cutco. I'll teach other salespeople how to be successful. So that was the first thing. And my business was taking off. And then 2008 happened. And all of my clients, their sales dried up. And so they quit coaching. And so I lost over half of my income, within a few months. And I kind of hit rock. That was a real rock bottom. It was really scary. It was depressing. I'd bought my first house. Now I'm foreclosing on the house. I'm losing my home. I'm going deep into credit card debt to pay my bills. And that's where the miracle morning was born. I realized that I have to become the person that I need to be to turn my financial situation around. And so I created a morning routine. It was the ultimate. It was I want to do not just one morning practice, but what are the most timeless, proven personal development practices?
Yep.
And I had a list of 6. They became the savers: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And within 2 months of doing those every morning, and keep in mind, this is 2008, I'm depressed,
Yeah.
I'm out of shape, I'm just like really physically, mentally, emotionally, financially in the lowest point of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 months, I doubled my income. I started training for a 52-mile ultra marathon, and I had never run before in my life. And my life changed so fast. I went to my wife. I can remember the moment in our hallway. She was coming out of the bedroom folding laundry. I said, "Sweetheart, we signed on 2 more coaching clients today." She goes, "That's great. Good news." I said, No, you don't understand. It's monumental news. That second client put us over doubling our income before the economy crashed 2 months ago. And I said, "It's all because of this morning routine. It feels like a miracle." And she goes, "It's your miracle morning." And I go, "I love it." So I wrote on my schedule, Miracle Morning. It wasn't a book idea. But then I taught it to my coaching clients, and then that evolved. It worked for them. And I thought, I have to share this with the world.
Yeah.
So that was the Miracle Morning piece. And then it was 8 years after that I was diagnosed with this rare aggressive form of cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. My heart was failing. My lungs were failing. My kidneys were failing. And they gave me a 30% chance of survival if I did chemotherapy. And so I reached out to some of the best holistic doctors in America, and they said, hoping like, I don't want to do all this. It's 700 hours of chemo. I said, I do not want to, you die from the chemo as much from the cancer. And the best holistic doctors in the country, two of them said, it's your best bet. Your organs are failing. This cancer, you don't have time to do anything holistic. To recover, you do after but you have to do chemo to stop the cancer.
Yeah.
So I just combined the best holistic practices that I could. Chemo, 30% chance of survival with 2 young kids was by far the hardest thing I'd ever dealt with, knowing there was the doctors say most likely 70% chance you're going to die and leave your 7-year-old daughter and your 4-year-old son without a dad. I used my Miracle Morning to beat the cancer as well. That was a big part of it. But yeah, now that was 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm cancer-free.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank God you're cancer-free. And when I think about that, I feel like so many people would have just been like, you know what? Why me? Like, I already got I was dead at 20 years old. Like,
Yeah.
I take care of myself. I wake up every morning and I exercise and I journal and I have gratitude. And did you feel any sense of why me at this point? Or did you just have so many tools in your toolbox to know that, okay, I got to just be positive and
both?
Okay. Yeah.
There were for sure moments where I'm like, God, what? Like, I've already been on the edge of death.
Yeah.
Like, what else could I possibly learn?
Yeah.
And the answer was a lot, actually, right? Like, it was a whole new evolution. And so it was also such a, the car accident was such a rare thing where most people can't relate to that. Like there's a huge distance between like, wow, that's wild, but it's not something I would ever go through. Cancer, that's touched almost everyone's life. And so whenever I go through something, and I think this is important for anybody to consider, I believe the purpose of adversity, or at least a purpose, is for us to learn, grow, evolve, become a better version of ourselves for ourselves, but in service of other people. So to me, and I learned that from my mom when I was 8 years old. My mother, my sister, who was 18 months old, she was a baby. On a Saturday morning, I woke up to my mother screaming across the hall. It was just me, my mom, and my baby sister, Amory, home. She was screaming, "My baby, my baby, my baby." And I went in, and my sister was dead in her arms, and my mom was performing mouth to mouth, trying to resuscitate her. Oh my God. And within a year, it was obviously devastating. My sister died that morning. And at 8 years old, it was, for me, I didn't know how to process it. But of course, for my mom, she was 30 at the time. It was just the worst nightmare for a parent. And within a year, my mother was leading a support group for other parents who had lost children. My mom and dad were leading a fundraiser every year, which we did that for like 12 years, our whole family, every year, to raise money for the hospital that cared for my sister. So I learned from my mom and my dad that, when you go through tragedy or adversity, you find purpose in your pain. You find a way to help other people. And now it's like, yes, this sucks. Yes, I didn't want this, but it's what's supposed to happen so that I can help the most amount of people.
That reminds me of like what I went through. I'm Palestinian, right? And what I went through with everything happening in Gaza, the way that I dealt with it was like, how can I raise money? How can I help people? How can I educate? How can I just do something positive, even though it feels so terrible? But all you can do is kind of just try to help other people. It's the best thing for your mental health.
It is. It is. Then it's not because if you're focusing on why me, why did this happen to me? I don't deserve that, right? You're perpetuating emotional pain.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get off of yourself and find a purpose, whether that's a purpose to be the best parent for your kids or the purpose even just to evolve yourself, whatever your purpose, you have to turn the pain into a purpose. And once you have a purpose, now it completely shifts your mental health. It shifts your focus. You're like, okay, there's a reason for this that is beneficial. And if you can find the benefit in the tragedy, then you know everything changes.
So you were mentioning that you didn't think you were going to learn anything else from cancer, but you did.
Yeah.
So what is one belief that you had before you had cancer that you no longer subscribe to?
It was a belief that I am meant to help millions of people. Not that I'm meant to help millions of people, that my mission is to help millions of people. That's my number one mission in life, is to help millions of people.
Okay.
Because that's what was happening with the Miracle Morning.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went through the cancer journey, I realized, oh no, my mission is to help 3 people. It's my wife and my kids. And I was confusing quantity over quality. I was living this like I'm on a mission from God to help and I still believe to help millions of people, but only after I've served the 3 most important people in my life, and they were getting put on the back burner. I'd become a workaholic unknowingly, where if you would have asked me, Hal, what's the most important thing in your life? Of course, my family, my wife and my kids, of course.
Yeah.
If you would have looked at my schedule, you'd be like, well, wait a minute. You sure do miss a lot of Saturdays because you got a speech or because you're writing another book. You sure are working. So it was one thing to believe or think that I had my family as my number one priority. I wasn't living in alignment with it. And so that was the big shift was, all those millions of people, I'll get to them once I've made sure my family's taken care of. And so now it's like I only work when my kids aren't in school. I drive one child to school every day.
Yep.
I pick one child up every day, right? Like that, to me, those are my greatest accomplishments, not the Miracle Morning.
Yeah, even with this interview, you're like, I have to be done by 3 so I can go get my
daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So you're a man of your word. So let's go back to the Cutco days, because a lot of my audience are entrepreneurs. Sales is the lifeblood of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
One of the most beneficial things I think you could do as an entrepreneur is to actually work at a big company and kind of get your feet wet, learn on somebody else's dime. So sales-wise or just, career-wise, what are some of the important lessons that you learned at Cutco?
Yeah, so the first lesson that I learned, day 2 of training, back to when I learned that 5-minute rule, same day, we learned about something called the fast start. And it's the first 10 days that every sales rep starts at Cutco. And again, there's like 20 people in my training class. So it's like every week they're launching 20 people, 30 people, 40 people out of the training class. And the first 10 days, Cutco has it set up, very smart, that it's like there's all these additional incentives. If you hit $1,000 in your first 10 days, you get this bonus and you get this Cutco. And at that time, Cutco was so cool for us. We're like, awesome, I get a free knife? I would love that. And then 2,000, you get, right, and the bonuses just increased. And then the highest reward was if you break the fast start record, which at that time was a woman had just broken it, 50-year-old company. She had broken it the week before. And she lived an hour and a half south of me in Bakersfield. And she sold $12,000 in change. And for my whole life, I was very mediocre. I did not get good grades. So I didn't excel in school. I didn't play sports. I didn't excel in sports. I wasn't popular. Like I was a very relatively mediocre kid. And I didn't have a lot of belief that I was capable of anything that I had beyond what I had done in the past, which wasn't much, right? Yeah. And on my second day of training, it came from, I don't know where it came from, but it was like, wait, this girl just sold $12,000 at Cutco. She just broke the record. She lives in Bakersfield. That's not Beverly Hills. She's not, because I lived in Fresno, right? You're thinking, so I'm like, she didn't live in like some fancy, schmancy place. She lived in Bakersfield. If she could do it, why not me? And I believe that's the first and most important belief for all of us to embody for success, that every human being that's overcome or accomplished something, they're not different than us. They're not better than us. They're not more capable than us. They're not more qualified. They're human beings, and they are evidence of what's possible for us. And I think we create separation. We're like, we always find the reasons, well, but they're younger, or they're smarter, or they're better looking, or they're, they've got more experience or whatever. And it's like, you've got to realize that we all have limitless potential. Yep. Right? And that's not cliche, that's legit. We have limitless potential, and look toward people. Like if you wanted to be in podcasting, you'd look at Hala and be like, hey, she's your evidence. And especially when I know your story, right? You went through, you were let go and you were fired from this and that, and you just kept pursuing your dreams and your goals, and you made them happen. And so you're evidence, and we're all evidence of what's possible for every single one of us.
So inspiring. Okay, let's talk about your morning routine, because I'm sure it would be beneficial for all my listeners. So it stands SAVERS.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what that stands for.
Yeah, so it started where I Googled what do the world's most successful people do during their morning routine. And I was looking for like 1 or 2 practices. And I came up with journaling and meditation and affirmations and visualization and reading and, and I had a list of 6. And again, keep in mind, 2008, I'm like, rock bottom. And so I'm like, well, I can't do all of these. And then I had the epiphany. I was trying to go, which one's best? Which one's the best? And then I went, wait, what if I did all of them? What if I woke up tomorrow 30 minutes earlier and I did 5 minutes of the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices that the world's most successful people have sworn by for centuries? And so that was the start of the Miracle Morning. And I didn't know how to do any of them. I didn't know how to meditate. I didn't know how to do affirmations. Felt goofy, right? And so over the last, 17 years, I've studied each of these individually. So the first S for silence, that is meditation or prayer. Or breath work. You think about, when do our biggest breakthroughs come? They come in the shower. When we're in a period of silence, we're falling asleep at night, right? It's in those moments of peaceful, purposeful silence. And so rather than letting those be haphazardly, right, like just happen by chance, it's engineering your day that it starts with that. And for most of us, what do our days start with? They start with our smartphone. And we put ourselves in a state of reactivity. Our nervous system, you take it off airplane mode. Now you're reacting to notifications. You're reacting to text messages and emails and social media. And you're literally putting your nervous system in a state of reactivity versus proactivity. So starting your day in a period of silence enables you to calm your mind, calm your nervous system, lower your blood pressure, right? And listen to the wisdom of God or higher intelligence. And I always have my journal next to me because my best ideas come during those periods of peaceful silence. And again, whether you meditate or you pray or you do both, and there's countless forms of meditation. I do all different styles. Sometimes it's a specific intention, like, God, I need a solution to this issue. And then I just get quiet and I just wait for it. And it always comes. I always get the ideas. The A for affirmations.
Can I ask you a question about
please.
silence?
Yeah. Interrupt me as anytime I keep going. Yeah.
So you talk about emotional optimization meditation. That's not, I talked to so many experts. I've talked about meditation 100 times. Never heard of that. So what's that and why does it help?
Yeah, I think I made it up. I always say I think I made it up.
Oh, you made it up.
Yeah,
That's why I never heard of it.
Yeah. So most forms of meditation are about like clearing your mind, focusing on your breath. I'm a results-oriented person, as you are, I know. And so for me, emotional optimization meditation is where I'll look at my schedule briefly and I'll go, okay, what's on my agenda today? And then I'll ask myself, what is the optimal mental and or emotional state that would best serve me today based on what I'm doing? My default is bliss. By the way, like if it's just a general day and I got nothing, I need to, specifically get into a specific state of like, I need to be confident because I have a keynote speech in front of 12,000 people, right? But if it's just general, it's bliss, which to me is love, contentment, gratitude, and peace. Those 4 components of bliss. And so I'll just sit there. Sometimes I'll put my hand on my heart and I'll just get in states of love and gratitude. And I'll set my timer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And I'll just meditate, if you will, meditate or marinate in that state. And what you're doing is you're hardwiring your nervous system. You're creating new neural pathways in your brain so that those states that you intentionally choose in the morning and meditate in become your default states that you can access at will. And again, for me, I want to live life in a state of bliss. I want heaven on earth. And it comes from the internal state is how you create that heaven on earth and that bliss.
So are you like thinking of past memories where you felt blissful and kind of like reimagining yourself in those situations?
Yeah. So in the new edition of the Miracle Morning, which is where I teach this, and I talk about there's different ways to get yourself into that state. And so for example, let's say I'm giving a speech and I want to get in a state of confidence. Yeah, I'll go, when was the last time I felt really confident in front of an audience? And I'll go, oh, it was last month when I spoke for LeaderCast. Okay. All right, what'd that feel like? And I'll pick, I'll bring in the other savers. I'll visualize that, right? I'll affirm, I am a phenomenal speaker. I am going to make a phenomenal impact today. Or I am at peace. I am grateful. So yeah, it's using visual imagery. It's using memories. It's using affirmations. And here's the beauty of it. Once you do this for a while, you don't even need those anymore. Like I know how to access the state of bliss like that. I can just put my hand on my heart and close my eyes and I can just sink into a state of bliss because I've done it so many times. It's literally like exercising, right?
Yeah.
You get physically stronger, you get spiritually, mentally, and emotionally stronger through that form of meditation. So that's my favorite.
Yeah. And when it comes to silence, do you recommend, like, is it also stillness, or can you do your silence while you're doing other things? Or is it more of like you need to just like be really intentional and be still and silent?
I don't know that I've done, that's not true. I've done walking meditations.
Okay.
And that's usually where I'm walking outside, right, when the weather's nice, and which in Texas is a short window. It's either too hot or too cold.
Not from studying for New York. Texas is
That's
awesome.
true. Yeah. And that's usually like, I'll usually do a typical meditation where I'm just literally listening. I'm listening to every sound that I can. I'm being totally present to my environment. I'm letting my vision almost blur, where I'm just seeing the field in front of me. I'm hearing the sounds. So that's a walking meditation, but I would say 99% of the time, or 95%, I'm sitting in a chair. I've got my feet on the ground, my hands on my knees, or sometimes up, and I'm totally still. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, affirmations.
All right, I'm going to go a little deep here. This is my favorite form of the savers.
Okay.
Or my favorite of the practices. And I think it's number one, it's the most misunderstood. Affirmations are usually thought of as cheesy, ineffective, goofy, either because if you grew up in the 90s, you watched Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live, and he had that skit where he's like, it was daily affirmations with Stuart Smalley. Did you ever watch that?
No, but
No.
I know what you're talking about in terms of like how it's kind of like woo-woo.
Yeah, well, and here's I'll give you two really specific reasons I think affirmations have not worked for people. Number one, lying to yourself doesn't work. We've been taught to affirm something that's not true that we wish were true, as if it were true. So, for example, if you're struggling financially, a well-meaning self-help guru may have said, just affirm, I am wealthy.
Yeah.
Right? And if you say I am, and it's followed by something that isn't factually true, then you're creating an internal conflict, as if we don't have enough of them, right, already. And so it's like you go, I am wealthy, and then your reality is like, no, my bank account balance is negative, right? And so you're going, shut up, I'm doing my affirmations. You're fighting reality. So the first problem with affirmations, they have to be rooted in truth. You can't lie to yourself. The second problem with affirmations is flowery, passive language does not produce results. So a really popular affirmation is, I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance.
I've said this a lot of times.
Yeah, it's so popular. And the reason I think it's popular, Hala, is because if your reality is like, if you're looking at you're checking your bank balance on your phone, and you're like, oh my God, I'm overdrawn. I need to do my affirmations. It's literally like taking a pill, like an antidepressant or something, where you're covering up reality, where you're going, I'm a money magnet. Oh, that feels better. Money is going to flow to me effortlessly. Thank God I have no motivation right now. Right? And so it's like, it's delusional. You're deluding yourself into thinking everything's going to be okay. And then it doesn't get any better and then you're like, oh, I got to do it again. Yep. So it's like you're putting a Band-Aid on, you're not getting to the root cause. So here are 3 steps to create affirmations that are rooted in truth, that are practical and that are actionable and will produce results. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. So you don't get if you want to be wealthy, don't say, I am wealthy. Say, I'm committed to becoming wealthy, or I'm committed to earning specifically this amount of money this year, or increasing my income by this, or getting that raise. Commit to a habit or an outcome. I am committed to blank no matter what, there is no other option. Step 2 is, why is it important to you? Why is it a must? Why is it meaningful? And as we know, right, like you've got to fuel the commitment. So why is it so important that by reminding yourself of those reasons, and I usually have 3 to 5 whys for any commitment. Why? It could be 1, but it's usually 3 to 5. Like, why is this important for me personally? Why is it important for my wife, Ursula, for our kids, for my community, for my company, for the world, right? Like why is this a must for me in these different areas? And when you read those, that's what fuels you to keep going. You're like, I don't feel like it today. And then you read the why, you're like, oh yeah, it's not even about whether I feel like it. I'm committed to this for my wife and I'm committed for my family. All right, I'm doing it. And then step 3 is which actions you will take and when you will take them. So you're affirming, okay, here's what I'm committed to. Here's why it's so important. And in order to make it a reality, these are the actions I'm going to take and when I am going to take them. And last thing I'll say is that I use that affirmations formula for each of my goals. So every goal I have, it's what am I committed to in terms of the goal? And the goal, again, it could be an outcome, but it could also be a result. Like you could say, I'm committed to losing 20 pounds, or I'm committed to exercising for 20 minutes, 5 days a week, right? And then 2, why it's a must, and then 3. And I have that for each goal in my life and for each role in my life. So as a husband, as a father, as a CEO, as an author, all of those things.
Amazing. So are you also using this as a way to like plan your day then? Is the affirmation portion a way to kind of plan your daily goals?
It's almost like it's pre-planned. So yeah, literally every day, you think about this, you're affirming what you're committed to.
Yeah, your priorities,
and as we know, the only thing in life, we get what we're committed to, not what we want. If we're committed. And so every day you're literally reinforcing and programming your subconscious mind to the commitment. You're reinforcing the why behind it, and then you're directing your action. You're like, oh yeah, here's exactly what I need to do. So you look at your schedule. If anything from the affirmations is missing, right? So the affirmation, like to me, it's the anchor of the miracle morning. It's the foundation. And the only way you can fail to achieve everything you want in your life is to live out of integrity with what you're affirming every day. As long as you live in alignment with your affirmations, you can't fail. And the last thing I'll say is that what you affirm repeatedly becomes your internal reality, right? So when you affirm this, when I had cancer, immediately, I used these 3 steps and I created affirmations. I'm committed to beating cancer no matter what. There is no other option. I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula because I promised her forever and a day. It's part of our wedding vows.
Aww.
I'm committed for my Sophia and Halston, my kids, because they need their daddy's love, guidance, and leadership, and I want to watch them grow up. I'm committed for my mom and dad because they already lost a child when Amory died, and I can't bear for them to lose another one. I'm committed for myself, right? So I had all these reasons, and then I had specifically which actions I was going to take in terms of holistic medicine as well as Western medicine, and I had specific things I was going to do. And so I believe the affirmations saved my life, because when I felt afraid, what if I die? I read those every day, and after a few weeks, that wasn't even a possibility to me, because what I affirmed repeatedly became my reality.
That was my next question. So you write them down, and do you say them out loud, or do you just read them in your head?
I read them in my head. A lot of people do them out loud. I've even heard of people that'll read their affirmations into their voice note or voice recorder.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and then play them back. So there's different ways. For me, it works for me if I read them. But I will say this, I do read them with conviction, and I guess sometimes I'll say them out loud. My kid, everybody's sleeping nearby, so I don't yell them, but I will, like, under my breath go, I am committed to blank no matter what. There is no other option. So
yeah, even when you read something, you're basically saying it in your head, right? So,
totally. Yeah.
Okay, visualization. I know we've heard a lot about this, but do you have a different spin on it?
I do. We've been taught to visualize the end result. Like back in the day, The Secret made vision boards very popular. And I think vision boards are fun craft projects. And I think there's value in having a picture of what outcome you want in your life to generate the inspiration, et cetera. But I find that my vision boards become invisible boards. Like, right, I eventually, it just becomes background, because I see it so many times. Now, if you're intentional, of course, you can stare at it. Here's my point, though. I believe there are 2 parts to effective visualization. And the first part is the vision board. It's seeing that outcome, but it's the least important part. And I just spend, 60 seconds. Like when I was training for that ultra marathon, I printed out a picture of the Atlantic City Marathon. That's the finish line that I was going to cross. So I saw it every morning, and I closed my eyes, and I would imagine, triumphantly busting through it after 26 miles. But that just took me less than a minute to do that. The most important part of visualization is what I call, and I didn't invent this term, it's mental rehearsal. So it's not about seeing the end result. Get that in your mind so you go, oh yeah, I'm excited about that. We're going to do that. Now it's about mentally rehearsing what you need to do today to take one step closer to what's on the vision board, what the ultimate vision is. And so for me, I literally would close my eyes, and I was sitting on my couch with my miracle morning. And the way I'd visualize is I would close my eyes and mentally rehearse the alarm on my phone going off at 7 a.m., which is when it was time to go for a run. And then I would see myself getting off the couch, like an out-of-body experience. And then I would walk into my bedroom closet. I would picture myself getting dressed in my running clothes, walking through the living room, opening my front door of my house, seeing the sidewalk, and then I would repeat the affirmations. By the way, you see how these savers connect? As I'm visualizing the sidewalk, I would say those 3 steps. Number 1, I am committed to running 52 consecutive miles on October 29th, 2009. There is no other option. I'm doing this to overcome the limiting belief that I'm not a runner, so that I can overcome every limiting belief that I ever have in my life moving forward. And to follow through with this, I will read the book, The Non-Runner's Marathon Trainer, and follow the training plan to a T every day, whether I feel like it or not. That was those 3 steps in action, and I read them before I visualized, and then as I visualized and I pictured I read them one more time, and I saw myself feeling excited to do the thing that I hated doing. And if I hadn't gone through that mental rehearsal, that visualization process, alarm would have gone off at 7. I'd go, I'll run I don't want to run. I'll run tomorrow, which we all can relate to that.
Yeah.
But because I didn't mentally rehearse procrastinating, that's not what I did when the alarm went off. I did exactly what I visualized day after day after day. And that's the power of visualization in the form of mental rehearsal.
Do you feel like sleeping on it also helps support your visualization? I'll give you an example. So I got asked to speak at Funnel Hacking Live, and it was on stage with Tony Robbins. It was 6,000 people. Russell Brunson is my client. Yeah. He invited me to this. And now, like, I've done a lot of speaking, but this is by far, like, the biggest stage I was ever on. And I just had, like, 3 weeks to prepare, plus I'm running a company and a podcast. So really, I had, like, a week and a half to prepare, memorize, everything like this. And I found myself visualizing. I would visualize me getting a standing ovation, doing a great job, like flawless. I found myself dreaming about it all the time. And I remember, I finalized my speech just the day before. Yeah. Okay. Because I had like a lot of edits and was just like really obsessed with it. And I remember on the Uber to the venue, I started just saying my speech. And I had memorized all 30 minutes.
Wow.
And my team was like, what? Like, how did you memorize this? This was just yesterday. And I was like, I think I just dreamed all night about it.
Wow.
And then I just did it perfectly. And I was on stage and the notes didn't work. And I had memorized it, so it didn't matter. Like, nobody knew. And even afterwards, I told, like, the technical staff, like, the notes weren't working. They're like, you did great. And I was like, well, yeah, thank God I memorized it in my sleep. But so I find that my brain will kind of like go over these scenarios when it's really important. And it's not really the best to get like really restful sleep, but it helps me really perform when it matters the most. So I don't know if you've relate to that in any way?
Yeah, yes, and so, and I think it was Maxwell Maltz in the book Psycho-Cybernetics. I forgot the term he used, but he talked a lot about programming your mind before bed, and that your subconscious would go to work on. So every night before bed, he would think of something he needed a solution to. He would set the intention for it, and then he'd wake up and he's like, it was always there. Like my subconscious worked overnight. So that speaks to what you're talking about. My relating to that is. So I don't dream. Ever since my car accident and the brain damage, I've dreamt maybe a dozen times in the last 20 years. I don't exactly know why. But I created bedtime affirmations when I started doing the Miracle Morning. And so before I would go to bed, here's what I realized. Our first thought in the morning and our first feeling in the morning is almost always whatever thought we dwelled on before bed and whatever emotional state we dwelled on before bed, right? And a lot of people go to bed, feel, oh my gosh, I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep. I'm gonna be so tired in the morning. I got the big project. I'm so stressed, right? And that's the intention they're setting. And then their first thought in the morning is, oh my gosh, I only slept 6 hours. I have that project coming, right? I'm gonna be a mess. And so I realized how important it was to program our subconscious mind before bed with the thoughts, the beliefs, the intentions, the emotions, the energy that we needed. And so I crafted these and these are in the Miracle Morning book. I crafted these word-for bedtime affirmations to set myself up that, hey, no matter how many hours of sleep I'm getting, my brain is a miraculous organ that can regenerate cells. I'm going to wake up feeling rested, excited, ready to take on the day. And that was my first thought in the morning was, oh, it's the morning. It's exactly what I thought. I slept for 7 hours or 6 hours. I'm going to feel great. Let's go. And I jumped out of bed. So really your thoughts before bed become a self-fulfilling prophecy in the morning. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, I love that too. And I love that bit of advice that you gave us. Okay, so the next one is exercise, right?
Yeah. And this isn't rocket science, so I won't spend much time on it. But the idea that when you move your body in the morning, right, or anytime, you generate not only physical energy, but you generate mental clarity, right? You get blood and oxygen flowing through your brain and you think better, you have more physical and mental energy. And so the idea is that it's not that you need to go to the gym in the morning. It's that you do 60 seconds of jumping jacks. Like what I do in the morning. So I do a 5-minute little workout in the morning. And this is what I'm doing now. It evolves over the years.
Yeah.
But I do 60 seconds of plank and then 60 seconds of toe touches just to stretch out, and then 60 seconds of back bend where I lay on my stomach and I pull my shoulders back and my legs up. Then I go do 45 seconds of each of those, and then I go do 30 seconds of each. So it takes like 5 minutes total, but my whole body is warmed up and I feel awake and alert. And I'll answer a question right now that might come up later, which is, do you have to do the savers in order, SAVERS? And the answer is no. So you can do them in any order you want. Some people like to follow just because they can remember them, just follow the SAVERS. But like exercise, for example, if you wake up, those mornings where you wake up and you were like right in the middle of a REM cycle and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I was hit by a truck.
Yeah.
That's where I move E to the front. And I immediately do 60 seconds of jumping jacks or something to wake myself up. And now I go from like at a scale of 1 to 10 of alertness, I'm at a 1 when I wake up. Now I'm at a 7. And now I can do the rest of a miracle morning with more energy, more clarity, and get more out of it.
I've never really been a great morning person, but lately I've been like forcing myself to wake up, and I do 10 to 20 minutes of Pilates. Now, I work out every day, and I like to do my hard workouts at night, but I was like, I want a way to feel like refreshed in the morning, to feel more alert in the morning, and even just 10 minutes. Like, people don't realize that 10 minutes of exercise is like a decent amount of exercise, and you wouldn't have done that anyway, right? So I feel like it's just really good for your physical health, and people don't realize that you could just get it done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. And with Robin Sharma, so we have a Miracle Morning, there's a Miracle Morning documentary, and Robin Sharma was in the movie, and he said in the film that the science has proven that the benefits of exercise last as long as 13 hours after the initial exercise, right? So the idea of, another question I get is like, can I do the savers later in the day?
Yeah.
Like, you could, but you're missing out on the 13 hours of benefit from that, the calming of your nervous system from silence, right? The clarity from affirmations,
Yeah.
the emotional reset from visuals, all of these things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next one is reading.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, not rocket science. But the idea that, I think most of your listeners probably read. I would guess that's your audience. The average person does not read self-help books. It's a very small percentage. But I just think that whatever area of our life we want to improve or anything we want to accomplish, right? Somebody spent a lot of time learning through trial and error and then putting their best knowledge into a book. I have one self-imposed rule, and this came from cancer. And realizing that work was my first priority, even though I thought it was family. It was work before cancer. Now it is family. I have to read a book on marriage or parenting to earn the right to read a book on business. So that's a little self-imposed rule that I have. In the morning, it reminds me, oh yeah, family's number one. This is what I read first. And then number two, I learn something. So I actually get to be a better dad or a better husband that I can apply that day.
Yeah. And this is really like the learning step. So it can be an audiobook. It could be a podcast. It doesn't have to be like a physical book.
Yeah. And you can definitely stack habits, right? Where people go, I'll listen to an audiobook while I do my exercise, right? Or I'll listen to my affirmation. Like, let's say you want to exercise for 20 minutes on the treadmill or the bike, right? It's like you can have your audio affirmations that you're listening to. You can listen to an audio book. You can write in a journal or do lots of different ways you can do it.
Yeah. Okay. The last one is scribing.
Yeah.
Journaling, right?
And it's funny. This is, when I was, this acronym started with my wife. Again, she thought of the Miracle Morning title, right? Even though it wasn't a book title, it was just the name of my morning routine. And then I was writing the book one day and she goes, I said, sweetheart, I've got these 6 practices and there's no rhyme or reason. Robert Kiyosaki has the cash flow quadrant and Stephen there's all these I need a catchy way people can remember this. And she goes, why didn't you get a thesaurus and see if there's any synonyms for those 6 practices? And so journaling became scribing. Would have made the acronym awkward, Saverja.
Yeah.
But so for me, 3 things I journal in the morning. Number 1 is there anything that I'm holding on to that I need to let go of? Am I stressed? Am I upset? Am I right? And if it is, I write it out and I just vent on paper. And then I always end it with, and I accept all of that exactly it is. So I'm completely at peace. It's that 5-minute rule, right? I can't change it. That's what's going on. I'm at peace with it. And now that's not weighing me down the rest of the day. And it's there in case I need to revisit it to, figure out solutions or whatever. Then the second thing is I write down what I'm grateful for. And I put my hand on my heart as I write it down. When I'm done writing each one down, I'll write down 1, 2, 3. And I just close my eyes and I picture the thing that I wrote down. And I really strive to feel gratitude at a deep level. And then the third is I look at my to-do list. It's usually there's 10, 20 things on there. And I go, okay, just to get clarity, what's my number 1 most important needle moving activity that I'm committed to do first before I move on to the rest? And I'll usually do that for the top 3. and just get clarity that way every day. I'm not just busy, but I'm really being productive. And it's a beautiful way because by keeping scribing at the end of the savers, it's like the transition from, okay, I just did my personal development, my inner work. Now I'm transitioning into the most productive workday that I can have.
Yeah. Do you know who Case Kenny is?
No, I don't.
He's like a big Instagram influencer. He talks a lot about mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me something that really stuck with me. And he was saying that mindfulness is really just self Q&A. And it's just trying to figure out like why you're feeling certain emotions.
I love that.
Right? And I've always struggled with journaling. And I think it's because, I'm a millennial. We grew up on phones and the computer. And so like, I'm just really used to typing. And when I try to write, it's just like really foreign. Like I can like do like chicken scratch notes and stuff, but like writing a journal, I feel like I could never stick with it. But now with ChatGPT, I use AI as like my way to journal. And it's just been so helpful. Like anytime I'm like having a problem and I need to think through it, I just go into ChatGPT, start a new session. It knows all the other things about me. Yeah. It knows me.
It's wild.
So it will start asking me, well, why do you think this? And do you want help with this scenario? Or let's like write these things down. And it's been helping me get so much clarity. Like it is like a therapist on steroids.
Totally. And I'm so concerned for therapists and coaches. And it's so many, so many professions. It is brilliant. And that's, we have a Miracle Morning app, which came out a few years ago. And that is one thing, like the digital journal, right? There is a benefit to being able to search entries, to, right? Like, being able to quickly access things, to be able to talk your entries so that it's done much faster. And sometimes like when I'm handwriting my journal entry, I don't write that fast. So like by the time I get to the end of the sentence, I'm like, wait, where was I going with that? Whereas if I could have just spoken it. So yeah, I think that, finding whatever works for you, whether it's a digital journal, whether it's a, speaking to type, whether it's handwritten, I think whatever works best.
Yeah. And so what are some like prompts that you give yourself when you're doing this scribing? Do you ever give yourself certain prompts?
I mean, I would say the three examples I gave is what, right? Yeah. So it's like, what do I need to let go of? What am I grateful for? What's my top priority, followed by my second and third for the day? Those are the three biggest prompts. And in the Miracle Morning app, there are over 500 journaling prompts, right? So leveraging AI and such. So there are over 500 journaling prompts, and you can, in the app, you can pick, we call them journeys, where you're like, okay, what area of your life do you need to improve? And you're like, I need to make more money. And you choose that as your journey. And then now it sets you up with all 6 savers focused on that one area. So you've got meditations that are focused on, abundance, consciousness, and so on and so forth. Affirmations that are focused on what you need to do to make more money, what to visualize. So it all is combined with that. So figuring out what you want to accomplish and then aligning your journaling prompts with that.
Yeah. What do you feel like entrepreneurs struggle with most when it comes to actually getting started with a morning routine like this?
I think it's so a couple. One is, and this is true for all people and entrepreneurs as well, I'm not a morning person. That's probably the biggest limiting belief, and I've examined the heck out of where that came from. In fact, when I wrote The Miracle Morning, that was my biggest insecurity. As I was writing the book, it took me 3 years to write the book. I'm a very slow writer. And I go, okay, this all makes sense, but how am I going to get someone to change a lifetime limiting belief that says, I'm not a morning person? I've tried, it didn't work. And so the entire book is like holding someone's hand psychologically and emotionally from, I hate mornings. In fact, I don't even know why my friend recommended this book to me. I don't even want to do this, to, all right, I'll do it, to 30 days later, oh my gosh, I've done the Miracle Morning, 25 out of 30 days. Like, this is changing my life, right? So it was holding their hand through that. What was your question? I forgot where I was going with that.
Just setbacks for entrepreneurs.
Oh, yes. So I'm not a morning person. And so I'll give you my favorite example, a real life story. So Pat Flynn, you know who Pat Flynn is?
Yes.
So Pat Flynn is someone that I love. I just love him as an entrepreneur. I love him as how he is as a dad. I love Pat. And we didn't know each other when I wrote The Miracle Morning, and I reached out to be on his show, and he said, I think I got declined by his assistant. And then months later, he reached out to me and said, hey, a bunch of people keep telling me I have to have you on my show. They know that I am not a morning person, and they've read your book, and they're like, he might convince you have to have him on the show. So I go on the show, and I find out, Pat's, I don't know, he's probably making $1 million a year or more at the time. He's running marathons. He's like a phenomenal dad. And he tells me, Hal, I am not a morning person. My best work gets done at night. And he said, the way I wake up in the morning, I don't wake up to an alarm clock. I wait till my kids come in and shake me awake. Daddy, Daddy, wake up. I go, how am I going to convince this guy that has it all that he should forget the kids waking him up, which is the sweetest thing I've ever heard, and use an alarm? By the end of the episode, he goes, Hal, I've never been a morning person, but based on what you said, I think I'm missing a level of productivity by not starting my day in a peak physical, mental, and emotional state before the kids wake up. I'm committed right now in front of my audience, 30 days, I will do this. And if you've seen the Miracle Morning documentary, the movie, Pat's in there talking about how the Miracle Morning changed his life. He is now a full-blown morning person. And I love that story as opposed to me trying to convince somebody, because it's like, this is someone who had, as one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, who swore that being a night owl that's what had worked for him. He gave the Miracle Morning a shot for 30 days and never looked back, and it became a permanent part of his life.
So I feel like when so I also identify as a night owl.
Yeah.
Right. I get so creative at 11 p.m. at night. If I've got a project due, my favorite thing to do is like stay up till 2 a.m. and do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the boss of a company. I can tell my team we're starting our meeting at 10 and not 8, you know? And I feel like once you reach a certain level of entrepreneurship, like I know in my gut, that's why I was saying like now I'm starting to wake up earlier and like really trying to be a morning person. Yeah. I know in my gut that I'm holding myself back now. That it did work for a while because I feel like I did need to just hustle and sacrifice and kind of just get things off the ground. But now I have a team, like there's no reason for me to do that. I'm better off like managing my energy, making sure I'm like the most positive, productive version of myself and just like living a healthier life, you know? Yeah. So I feel like as a startup entrepreneur, it's really easy to fall into that trap of I need to just stay up and get things done. And it might be beneficial when you're first starting a company. But once you start like evolving as an entrepreneur and you've got a foundation, I feel like you've got to step it up and start to fix the way that you wake up in the morning, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. The Miracle Morning doesn't have to be an hour long. Like it's really not an either or. It's not like I either stay up really late or I have to wake up really early. Like it's not the 5 a.m. club. It's the, okay, I wake up every day, you know, I stay up till midnight and I wake up at 8. Okay, great. I'm going to go to bed at 11:30 and wake up at 7:30 for my Miracle Morning, right? So it's like a very small trade-off for like, I'm going to go to bed a little earlier just to wake up a little earlier and then start my day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state. And one of my favorite examples of this, you know, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I met Robert at an event. I gave him a copy of The Miracle Morning back when it was a self-published book. And I'm thinking, he's never going to read this. And 3 weeks later, I got an email from his assistant and said, Robert's read The Miracle Morning 3 times.
Wow.
Which right there, my jaw hit the floor because I was like a huge fan of his book. And he wants to have you on his show. And so I go on his show and I Googled, what's Robert's net worth? I was just curious. $80 million, right?
Wow.
So I go, if this guy who is a world-class entrepreneur worth $80 million, realized that by implementing the Miracle Morning, he could achieve and he told me, he goes, Hal, you named the book correctly because he goes, since I've started practicing the Savers 3 weeks ago, I'm experiencing miracles in my marriage, in my health, and in my business. And I was like, if it's good enough for Robert, it's good enough. It's good enough for the rest of us, right?
Yeah, and he came on the show, and he's a hard guy to please. So
totally,
he did a good job.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
So I know that you're also an expert in habit formation. I mean, you started this. You weren't even a morning person. Now you've got this Miracle Morning. You've helped hundreds of thousands of people have better mornings. So what is your approach to habit formation?
Yeah, so definitely something I've studied. And, you know, there's a very popular philosophy that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. And actually, I believe it's the same book I quoted earlier that was perpetuated or talked about in Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, which I think was 1968. And it just and then it got quoted and quoted and quoted and quoted, becoming part of our lexicon. And so there's also, though, the most recent research is from Harvard that it takes 66 days to change a habit. I'm a big believer in it takes however many days I decide that it takes. Like I believe so much in we create our own reality through the beliefs that we embody and the actions that we take. And if you tell yourself it's going to take me 66 days, then that's what it'll take. If you say it's going to take 21, that's what it'll take. I personally have found that 30 days is my favorite approach to changing a habit. Whether it's getting rid of a bad habit, starting a new habit. And I break it into 3 10-day phases. And I call this process from unbearable to unstoppable. So the first 10 days of changing a habit can feel unbearable because it's new. It's like, I've never done this before, and our identity is at stake. It's like, I'm not a morning person. Or for me, when I was training for that marathon, I'm not a runner. Like, I don't think I could do this. And as I'm running, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sore. I don't have any stamina. I can't do this, right? There's so much negative talk during those first 10 days, it can feel unbearable. But if you understand that, oh, that's only a 10-day phase, I can do anything for 10 days, no matter how hard it is, if there's a payoff at the end. The second 10-day phase, days 11 through 20, are what I call the uncomfortable phase. It's no longer unbearable. You're starting to acclimate, but it's still easier to not do it. But if you can push through those 10 days and go, okay, I'm going to keep doing it because I am committed for 30 days, no matter what. And that can be part of your affirmation. I am committed to do this new habit for 30 days, no matter what. There's no other option. Here's why I'm doing it. Here's which actions I'll take and when, right? I'll wake up and so on and so forth. Like for your miracle morning, you could say, I'm committed to do the miracle morning for 30 days. Yeah. Here's why I want to become the person I need to be to create everything else I want for my life. I want to start every day in a peak state. So in order to do that, I will go to bed at 30 minutes earlier and set my alarm 30 minutes earlier, right? Like, here's what I'll do to make sure I'm set up for success. And so the final 30 days or the final 10 days of the 30 days is what I call the unstoppable phase, because somewhere during that point, you wake up and there's no resistance anymore. You like forget that you didn't know how to do it 20 days ago. Yeah. And you just get up and you just do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, you're halfway through the miracle morning, like, wait a minute. This was automatic. Oh my gosh. It takes no effort anymore. And that's what happened for me when I was training for the marathon is I just got up, got my dress, and I'm running, and I'm like, and I get through the run and I go, wait a minute, I didn't have one negative thought during that run. And that's when you become unstoppable because you have fully acclimated the habit. There is no more resistance. So that 21 days may be true that it takes 21 days to implement a habit, but you need those extra 10 days to reinforce it in a positive way without the negative talk or the resistance so that it becomes something that you're excited to continue.
Yeah, and that you actually enjoy. And I love the fact that if we know that the first 10 days we're going to have imposter syndrome, it's going to feel like crap because we're not good at it yet. We don't know what we're doing yet. If that's like, on our radar, we won't feel as bad. We'll just be like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to feel like this. It's the first 10 days. Let me just try to get through this.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. But if you don't have that, what happens, here's what people do. They go on day 2 or day 3, they go, oh my God, this is so hard. I don't want to do this. I don't feel like it. And here's what our brain is not good at doing. It's not good at playing how things will be in the future. It literally it lives in the moment. And so we go, oh, this is what the new habit's going to be like. Never mind. We think unbearable is forever. We literally are like, oh, this is what running feels like. Oh, this is what waking up early feels like. Never mind. I can't do this forever. But it's like, no, it's not like that forever. It's only hard for a little bit. And it's so worth it when this becomes a lifelong habit that's automatic, that takes no effort, and it changes your life day after day after day, year after year.
I'm really excited to try to do the Savers morning routine with this 30-day challenge. I feel like I'm the perfect candidate.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, you got to do what Pat Flynn did. Commit on air.
I will. I promise, guys. I'm going to do this Savers morning routine for the next 30 days, no matter what. And hopefully it will become a habit.
I love it.
Yeah. So I am in Austin, Texas, and something that's become extremely popular here is cold plunges. So now that there's this new thing that everybody loves to do in the morning, I don't hear that being a part of your routine. So tell me why.
No, I don't cold plunge. I don't. It's funny. I'm speaking at the biohacking conference in next month.
Yeah.
And I'm still working through the message because I don't want to step on the toes of like vendors.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be like, hey, start with all the free stuff. Like you could buy a red light therapy device, or you could just go stand in the sunshine in the morning for 15 minutes. You could buy a PEMF machine, or you could just go ground on the earth, right? Like, which also feels like more natural.
Yeah.
And then the savers. So I'm doing right now, I'm researching all the scientific proof of how every single one of the savers is hacking your internal biology, both physical biology, psychological biology, rewiring your brain, so on and so forth. So I don't cold plunge. And I have cold plunged, and it doesn't. Also, I'll cold shower occasionally, but it's not part of my morning routine.
I'm not into that either.
Okay, all right, good. I feel better.
I'm not into it. I never have, and I actually don't think it's good for women. I heard somebody on Mel Robbins' podcast that was saying that like women actually shouldn't cold plunge. Like we get colder than men, and so I feel like because biohacking is led by so many men, women just like are getting this guidance from men and what makes them feel good.
Yeah.
But we don't really have anybody to look up to in that space yet who can talk from a woman's perspective. So I thought that was interesting.
That's interesting. And it makes me think, even for men though, one thing that trends often miss is long-term studies, right? So it's like, I've read, obviously there's all this, buzz about cold plunging, but I've read like it actually puts your nervous system in fight or flight. There's actually negative benefits, right? So or negative consequences. So who knows what it's going to be in the long run.
Yeah. Hal, this was such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. I end my show with 2 questions that I ask all my guests. Doesn't have to be about what we talked about today. Just answer from your heart.
Yeah.
So what is one actionable thing our young and profiters can do today to become more profitable tomorrow?
Yeah, it honestly is wake up 30 minutes earlier. If you want to do a full hour, go for it. And just do one of the savers. Like, you don't have to start with all 6. It's not this all or nothing thing where a lot of folks, if you've never read The Miracle Morning, order the book, get the audio book, get the Kindle, or download the app. And then during your first Miracle Morning, just wake up like 15 minutes earlier and just do the R. Just read. And then as you get to the chapter on silence, you can add that in and build your Miracle Morning over time. But whenever you're trying to change a habit, the easier it is, the more successful you'll be. So just wake up a little bit earlier, 15, 20, 30 minutes, and do one of the savers and then build it over time.
Yeah, I love that you're saying you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to do this.
Exactly.
Anytime you wake up is fine. Cool. And what would you say your secret to profiting in life is? And this can go beyond financial.
So it's a philosophy that I came up with in Cutco. I was struggling. I was in a period of my Cutco career where I was at 3 weeks in a slump. I couldn't get appointments scheduled. I couldn't sell. And I was ready to quit because I was emotionally attached to my results, and my results were bad. And I had an epiphany. I went, wait a minute. At the end of this year, how much Cutco I sold, this is true across all industries, is not based on how any individual day or week went in sales. It's based on how many phone calls I make this year. It's the process that determines the result and the outcome.
Yep.
And so my epiphany was, okay, I got the calculator out. How many calls do I need to make to hit my sales goal this year? And I go, okay, I need to average 20 calls a day. Okay, got it. I've made 20 calls in a day. That's easy. If I make 20 calls a day, 5 days a week, if I commit to that process without being emotionally attached to my day-to-day and week-to-week results, statistically, at the end of the year, I will hit my goal. And so that was my epiphany as I went, I'm going to change the game that I'm playing. I'm no longer going to worry about my day-to-day sales. I'm going to focus on making 20 phone calls per day, 5 days per week, and not care, not worry, not give it a second thought how any given phone time session goes. And know that at the end of the year, I'll hit my goal. And that's what happened. At the end of the year, I hit my goal. In fact, I was the number 6 rep in the entire company. And here's the best part. Everybody else was so stressed out. Entrepreneurs are so stressed out because they're looking at the short-term results. I'm not where I want to be. It's not happening as fast as I want it to, right? Everybody else that I was competing with was living that same stressful life. I had no stress. I made 20 calls a day. Then I went to the pool and I hung out until I had my first appointment. It was the easiest life because I committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the result. So that for me as an entrepreneur was the big game changer.
I teach that to my students all the time. I do sales webinars and I call it bottoms up sales. Bottoms up sales. So you just figure out what are the actions you need to do.
We have so much in common.
I know.
think the more we hang out, the more we're going to find out that's true.
I know. Where can everybody learn more about you and everything that you do? And I know you also have a podcast, so tell people about that.
Achieve Your Goals podcast. That's my podcast I've had for 10 plus years. And miraclemorning.com is the hub for everything. You can find the books on Amazon, but miraclemorning.com, you can watch the Miracle Morning movie there, which features Mel Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Lewis Howes, Robert Kiyosaki, bunch of cool folks. Captures my cancer journey. And then you can download the app as well in the App Store, or miraclemorning.com is the hub for all of it.
Thank you so much. You definitely inspired me. I'm really excited for my Miracle Mornings.
Thank you, Hala.
Thank you.